Hello everybody and welcome to the NHL 2018-2019 season preview brought to you by Jedi Dropouts Productions. I'm your host Ryan Taylor. Now, if you're a regular listener and you came here looking for comic books, superheroes, video games, that kind of thing, you might want to turn away. These couple episodes are strictly hockey talk and not really what you're used to hearing on this channel. On the other side of that, if you found your way here as a hockey fan, don't expect the rest of the channel to be in line with that because it's normally pretty goddamn geeky. All that aside, why am I, a guy who normally spends his time talking about all these geeky things, spending this amount of time releasing a series of hockey-based podcast episodes? Well, because if there's one thing in this world that I like to geek out about the most, it's actually hockey, especially this time of year. Let's see, NHL 19, it's about to release, and I've been playing that series almost every single one of them since NHL 94. I've already spent countless hours this week organizing the fantasy hockey pool that I do every year, not to mention the stupid amount of time I'm going to put into actually picking my team in the coming weeks. I read every single issue of the hockey news every month. I listen to a handful of hockey podcasts every single week. I put way too much time into hockey in my life for someone who doesn't actually play, but used to a long time ago. I live and breathe hockey, and while I may not be an expert, I do feel like I have a bit of input in terms of predictions and outlooks. I pay attention to trades and contracts and stats and things like that. I geek out about this stuff. And, I mean, let's be honest here, I fucking love podcasting, so yeah, here we are. So this is how I'm going to do this. Before the season starts on October 3rd, I'm going to have 4 episodes released, one of them focusing on each division of the NHL. And in each episode, I'll be breaking down my thoughts on every single team of that division. Plus, I think I'll give my personal predictions on where they're going to end up in the regular season standings. So, obviously, you can read, you clicked on the title here. First, I'm going with the Atlantic Division. And that's mostly because those are the closest to home for me here in Newfoundland. It's still pretty far away, but it's the closest we got. And generally, the teams in this division are going to have the biggest fan bases of people listening to this, I do believe. It's going to be up there. So, let's get this started. I'm going to start off with the Boston Bruins. Just going to do this alphabetically. No favorites here. So, the Boston Bruins are a team I feel like a lot of people are skeptical of. The general consensus I'm getting is that last season was a flash in the pan and they aren't for real. I don't believe that. I'm not fully convinced. I think the Bruins of, say, 2 to 3 years ago were the flash in the pan, and that I think there will be a top team in the division here. Big changes in the off-season here. You've got, well, during the season as well. Ryan Spooner is gone. He was traded in the Rick Nash trade at the trade deadline. You've got Adam McQuaid just leaving a couple days ago. And Anton Kudobin, backup goalie, is also gone. Kudobin replaced with Jaroslav Halak, formerly of the Islanders. I feel like if Halak can get back to his A game, that is an improvement in goal. Obviously, he won't be able to challenge Tuukka Rask for the starter position, but he could provide some decent backup there. Who's replacing Spooner? Not really sure. They have Joachim Nordstrom here. I'm not sure if he's going to make the lineup or not. It's kind of a packed lineup on the bottom lines here. McQuaid obviously will be replaced by John Moore, who was signed in the offseason. Not quite as gritty, not quite as tough as McQuaid, but solid defenseman nonetheless. The thing with the Bruins is if they're gonna win at all, it's gotta be now. Chara is, how many years left does Chara really have? He's getting up there. His game has lost its edge a little bit. Krejci, Bergeron, a little bit past their prime, but still playing at an elite level. Rask is also getting up there. The time is right now because you have all these guys still in the lineup, but you have Pasternak and Marchand playing at their fucking best. You have a young Charlie McAvoy. You have Torrey Krug playing at an elite level, and you've got an abundance of youth in Jake DeBrusk, Danton Heinen, Ryan Donato. The time is obviously now, and it seems like management and ownership have that same feeling. They made a big pitch for John Tavares. I've heard rumors that they have been trying to land Erik Karlsson, whether that'll work out or not. And I don't know. I don't expect that it's going to work out, that this is the time that they actually will win, but it is certainly the time they have to try. Now, last season, of course, the top line was on fire. The top line of Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, and David Pasternak had 228 points combined. What makes me think they could actually improve on that is between Bergeron and Marchand, they missed 32 games. So, I feel like the Bruins are going to be good. It's a tough division to break out of with some of the competition there in the top, but I feel like they have a chance. I felt like they had a chance last year, but the injuries, I think, is mostly what ended it for them. So, with all that in mind, I'm going to predict that they finish third in the division, third in the Atlantic. Again, this is the regular season standings predictions. There's no impact on the playoffs. It's way too far out for me to even think about the playoffs. But yeah, third overall in that division. Next up, we have, in my opinion, one of the most interesting teams in the division, and one that is the hardest to really predict out of all of them, and that's the Buffalo Sabres. I really think it should be the beginning of a new era for the Sabres. That being said, I also thought the same thing for the last 2 years straight, so I'm not gonna hedge my bets on the Sabres or anything like that, but it looks good. Obviously, the big exciting piece coming to the Sabres this year is first overall pick Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin should hop right into the lineup and quickly become one of their best players. So let's see, the changes again this year. Evander Kane was gone at the trade deadline. Not a big return on Kane trade-wise. I feel like they could have gotten more. Ryan O'Reilly traded in the offseason. Robin Lehner walked away. Josh Georges is gone. Chad Johnson is gone. Benoit Pouliot's gone. There's a lot of pieces missing, but in place of that, they have, as I mentioned, Rasmus Dahlin. Another rookie, Casey Middlestat, should jump right into the lineup. Connor Sheary, you got Carter Hutton, Vladimir Sabatka, Patrick Berglund, Tage Thompson. They got back as many pieces as they lost here. I feel like overall the team is younger and faster than it was last year. The top lines, I totally forgot to mention Jeff Skinner Also, a new piece that they added. Again, younger, faster. Hopefully the top line combination of Eichel, Reinhart, and Skinner works out. I think that could be a great combination. They're probably going to try Casey Middlestat as the second line center alongside Kyle Okposo and Connor Sheary. The questions in Buffalo are, how good is Dahlin? How good is Middlestat? And will they hop into the lineup and be okay, or can they provide breakout rookie performances like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner before them in Toronto? Not to just bring it to Toronto, but they were recent great examples. Can Jack Eichel stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, Jack Eichel should be one of the top 10 to 15 scorers in the league. He should be an absolute powerhouse, but he's been injury plagued the last couple of years. Goaltending is a question. Obviously, last year with Robin Leonard did not work out even a little bit. Carter Hutton looks like he's going to be the starter here. Now, Carter Hutton has never started for an entire season. This is going to be his first time. However, last year, I forgot to write down the exact statistic, but I believe it was for any goalie, 30 games or more. He had the highest save percentage. He had one of the highest save percentages in the league last year, but he didn't play a full workload in St. Louis. Of course, in St. Louis, he was protected by much better defense. So you've got Dahlin, you got Ristolainen. Now, there were some injuries on defense last year here in Buffalo. Hopefully full seasons now out of Bogosian and Jake McCabe and these guys. So I feel like it could work out. You've also got the third line combination of Sabatka, Berglund, and Pominville, which should be a nice gritty third line, maybe with a little bit of offensive upside. Goaltending, again, you got the question of the backup. Is it going to be Linus Ullmark? Is it going to be Scott Wedgwood? A lot of questions here. Like that's the thing with Buffalo. A lot of questions, but the upside is huge. Could they make the playoffs? Probably. It's possible. I think the only sure thing, in my eyes, is I don't think they can possibly be as bad as they were last year. So with that in mind, I'm gonna predict. I'm trying to play it safe here. I'm gonna predict 5th in the division, just outside the playoff bubble, but not nearly as horrendous as they have been in the last couple years. And now we go from the most interesting team in the division to, no offense, guys, but I think the most boring in the division here. The Detroit Red Wings. I don't have a whole lot to say about the Red Wings because, I don't know, there's just not a lot of interesting stuff going on. The most interesting thing, of course, is Zetterberg. Henrik Zetterberg is injured, and it doesn't look good. He's going to be out for some time if he even comes back at all. He could be done here. Of course, he's been the centerpiece of the team for years and years. Other changes, you have Peter Mrazek, he is gone. Jared Coro, also gone. The main two backup goalies of last season. Jonathan Bernier is taking their place, I guess. I think Bernier is an improvement here as a backup, because I've been critical of Jonathan Bernier in the past, and mostly I don't think he's a great starter. I think he's an excellent backup because he works well in spurts. Give him a 10-game run and he can stand on his head, but you give him a season, and you see his flaws eventually. You see his weak spots. So I think he could work here. You also have Thomas Vanek coming in. He's probably going to get that first line left wing spot alongside Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha. That could work out. Vanek is a little bit underrated. He's had some pretty good seasons lately for a guy his age. Obviously, nothing compared to his peak seasons, but for what you're paying for him on a contract and the expectations, he almost certainly lives up to his contract. You get your money's worth out of Thomas Vanek. Rookie wise, we have Philip Zadina, who could be a potential breakout here. Could be a potential Calder nominee. Coming off a hot season with the Halifax Mooseheads. He looks great. He does. But the problem is that at almost every position, they're very weak. Almost no third and fourth lines here. Defense just doesn't look great. Mike Green, fantastic. Beyond him, I don't know. You got Danny DeKeyser, I guess, Trevor Daley. Not guys you would normally have in your top four, but guys you're almost certainly going to depend on in your top four. Especially with the amount of youth that you have playing up front. And there's just a lot of question marks, a lot of inexperience, a lot of I don't know. You can almost you're not even sure who is going to play where in the bottom two lines with Detroit. You've obviously got Gustav Nyquist down there, Andreas Anastasio. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that one right. And you got guys like Franz Nielsen, just guys that, they could have great seasons, but will they? Who knows? A lot of the same guys from last year, and last year was a pretty underwhelming season. So, all of that in mind, I'm gonna put them at 6th in the division, because there's enough there that I don't think they should completely bottom out, especially with some of the other teams, which we will get to. But there's nothing exciting enough to even consider that they could make the playoffs with this team, as a lot of it just sort of looks like an AHL team. Next up, we have another very interesting team in my eyes, the Florida Panthers. Now, Florida is another one of those teams that I've been saying for years, like, one of these days, the team is going to break out. And so far, they've proved me wrong, but I'm thinking maybe this could be the year. Again, said it a few times before. Radim Verbata is not going to be back. Connor Brickley is not going to be back. Not huge losses, in my opinion, especially when you've got Mike Hoffman coming in place of Verbata, and Brickley's spot is going to be taken up by one, maybe two rookies, Henrik Borgstrom, and Borgstrom will definitely make the lineup. That's a given. He's probably going to be in that third line center spot, well protected down there. Owen Tippett is also a maybe. I feel like if Owen Tippett can crack the lineup, then these two could be competing for a spot at the Calder. Borgstrom is way more likely, way more NHL ready, but Tippett's got a hell of a shot, and he's a maybe, So the team has a breakout that's been overdue. Injuries have plagued them for years. Barkov and Huberdeau mostly. Jonathan Huberdeau and Alex Barkov could be one of the top duos in the league if they could just play full seasons. Barkov honestly could be another one of those top 10, top 15 scorers, but he's always missing time. if they can get full seasons out of these guys, I think they'll be in the playoffs. I mean, you've got Aaron Ekblad, you've got Keith Yandle, you got Michael Matheson, you got solid defense. Luongo, yeah, he's getting old. He's getting up there. He's probably retiring in the next couple of years, but he's still playing a hell of a good game. And not to mention, he's backed up by James Reimer. And Reimer's solid and honestly kind of underrated. He got way too much heat when he was in Toronto, in my opinion. So you have Huberdeau, Barkov up front. You also have Evgeny Dadonov, who had a great year last year, his first year coming over from the KHL. As I mentioned, Mike Hoffman, hopefully he can get past all the off-ice drama from Ottawa. He's down there far away from Canada where no one's going to be watching him, and maybe he can play that great game he was playing before all of that ugliness. He's probably going to be on the second line, just because that top line of Huberdeau, Barkov, and Dadonov seem to work so well. So you're probably going to see Hoffman on a second line. I'm guessing with Nick Bjugstad and Vincent Trocheck. That could work out. I feel like that could be a good line. So you've got Barkov line, you've got the Trocheck line, you've got the rookie Borgstrom's line down on the third, and the fourth line is kind of question mark, but it's probably going to be Derek McKenzie, probably Jared McCann, some combination of those guys, and maybe that's where they'll fit Owen Tippett in. I feel like they're pretty deep at every position, way deeper than you would think with the Panthers. So I'm gonna predict that these guys actually do make the playoffs. I'm gonna say they finish fourth in the division. It's highly possible that they have a huge breakout year and top the division or come close to it. But I'll play it a little safe. I'll go with fourth, just in that wild card spot. And I'm excited to see what comes of the Panthers this year. Oh boy! If you're familiar with the division and you've been following along here, alphabetical order, it's time for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm so sorry, Canadian fans. This doesn't look good, guys. It really doesn't. I wish I could say it does, but it does not at all. Just a couple of days ago, Max Pacioretty traded away for a pretty... I mean, I'm not going to say it's a bad return, because Nick Suzuki, we'll see how good he actually is. Second round pick could turn into just about anything. Thomas Tatar, if you're looking at it as a Tatar for Pacioretty trade, no, it's a bad trade. But Suzuki and a second round pick along with it could balance out. Alex Galchenyuk also traded this offseason for Max Domi. If you will notice, once again, the Canadiens have traded some major pieces and still don't have a center, which is shocking. I don't know how they've managed to trade. Let's see. Let's count them off here. Mikhail Sergachev, PK Subban, Max Pacioretty, Alex Galchenyuk. They've traded all these major pieces of the team, and in no way have they got a center. You could argue Jonathan Drouin is your center, but he's a winger. He's always been a winger. They tried that last year. It didn't work. You need to get a center if you want someone to play center. In other bad news here, Shea Weber is going to be missing roughly half the season, maybe more. How well he plays when he returns from that, yet to be seen. Carey Price's massive, insane contract starts this year. Listen, I get it. I get the argument that he's the best goalie in the world, and you got to pay the best goalie in the world, but you don't. You really don't. You don't have to pay him that much. You're paying more for Carey Price than most teams pay for both goalies, that being a solid goalie and a solid backup. And because of this Price contract, you have absolute garbage. No offense, Antti Niemi, but you're past your prime, bud. You had a good run back in the day, and you just don't really have it left anymore. It's time to pack it up, I think. So, goaltending, backup looks not good. If Price can actually play a full season at the top of his game, they might be able to get through this. But he's missed so much time in the last couple of years. It just doesn't seem like he's healthy. And when he does play, he's so inconsistent lately. It's like you're not really getting full seasons of the best goalie in the world. You're maybe getting like 10 game runs of the best goalie in the world, and then a couple more games of, oh, who's that guy? And then you're just getting your backups. Like, it's not worth that money at all. Defense looks terrible. Shea Weber, even with Shea Weber, it's so thin behind him. Like, Jeff Petrie, Carl Alsner, these guys they're slow. They're not the fast puck-moving defenseman you want back there. Victor Mete looks pretty good, but he's one of very few. And up front, it's not that they don't have offensive potential, it's just you don't have anything down the middle at all. You've got great wingers. You have Jonathan Drouin, Max Domi, sure, he's a great pickup. Brendan Gallagher, when he's on his game. There are great players, and there are great offensive possibilities here, but you need that middle. You need the center. It just doesn't look good. And I feel like what needs to change in Montreal, first and foremost, is Claude Julien and Marc Bergevin. They gotta go. Bergevin especially, I think, needs to go. Claude Julien, it's not that I think he's a bad coach, I just don't think he's the right coach for this team. He's very defensively minded. He likes to hang it back. And for a team that desperately needs to score, it's a terrible combination. So maybe that's where to start. I don't know. And prediction-wise, like, based on all that, you would think bottom of the division, but there's worse to come. So I'm going to say 7th in the division. I'm sorry, I know there are Montreal fans listening, and you want good news, but it's not the place to look for it. Go watch football or basketball or something and follow your team there, because the Canadians aren't looking good. And they could surprise, like, if Price hops in here and has a Vezina level season like he has had in the past, man, he could push them to the playoffs. It's possible. Maybe Jonathan Drouin works out at center. I don't think it'll work out, but who knows? Maybe he gets some chemistry with Max Domi. You got a good top line there. Maybe guys like Victor Mete step up as in Weber's absence. So it's possible that this works out. I could be wrong. I don't see it. I really don't see it. So yeah, 7th in the division is my prediction, and if I'm wrong at the end of the year, you could tell me. You can shout at me then, but I won't be betting any money on the Montreal Canadiens, I can assure you that. Well, for all you Canadiens fans, at least the high point here is you're not going to be the worst Canadian team in the league this year, because, boy, Ottawa is just a fucking dumpster fire right now. Erik Karlsson is going to be traded. And I know, the typical thing for fans to do here is to say, why would they do that? Why would they trade one of the best players in the league and to get on people's back about it? But it's going to happen when there's this much talk and this much trouble signing a player, and the trade keeps coming up and keeps coming up. It's going to happen. It happened with, let's count them: Phil Kessel, Kevin Shattenkirk, Matt Duchene, Max Pacioretty, PK Subban. Even though it seems unfathomable that a team would trade a player of that caliber, it happens, and it's going to happen. Whether they do it before the season, whether they wait till the trade deadline, or if they do the stupidest thing imaginable and just let him walk in the off season as a free agent, because he will. The environment in Ottawa is so toxic now that there's no way Erik Karlsson stays with this team. I cannot see it. I will be absolutely shocked if that happens. So, aside from that, everything with Mike Hoffman, they gave him away for almost nothing. And I understand that they had to, but it kind of sucks. Because Hoffman really was a talented winger. And one of their best offensive players. Let me see. Alex Burrows gone. Not a huge Burrows fan, but he did add to the team. The thing in Ottawa this year, if they want to have any chance of doing anything at all, the youth really has to come through. And it's not great to rely on rookies this early in their careers, but Brady Tkachuk, Logan Brown, and Colin White especially, chances are those three will make the team, and they will be relied on heavily. There's a lot of chances for other rookies to make the team here right out of the gate. Drake Batherson is one that comes to mind. He could crack the lineup. And I'm going to talk about the tape that was released a couple nights ago of owner Eugene Melnyk sitting down with, weirdly enough, the defenseman Matt Barowicki. They were sitting there and talking about the plans for the team and all the rumors, and it was just this bizarre little tape. But Melnyk said in the tape that by the start of this season, 10 of the 22 roster players will be either rookies or new to the team. And that by next year, 2/3 of the team would be brand new. So they're going full rebuild here. As I mentioned, Karlsson is gone. Hopefully they can get a decent return and not have to give him away for pennies on the dollar. But realistically here, Ottawa fans, get ready for everyone to walk, because Mark Stone, Matt Duchene, Craig Anderson, these guys don't want to stay there. These guys all have huge potential to go on and win Stanley Cups before retiring, and they're not going to fucking do it in Ottawa. It's not going to happen. The team is it's going downhill very fast, and their best bet is to build from the ground up, and it looks like that's what they're doing. So, whether Stone, Duchene, Anderson, these guys, Anderson, I'm guessing if he can't find a trade or can't find a new team, he's going to just retire anyway at his age. But Stone and Duchene, the last years of their contract are coming up. So if these guys can't find a way to get out mid-season, they're probably walking. Because they're free agents, unrestricted free agents after this season. And you don't want those guys to walk, because especially Mark Stone is such a valuable asset. He could be, on the right team, one of the best wingers in the league. And it's a shame that this team can't work out their differences, can't figure this out, because oh my god, just 2 seasons ago they managed to get to the conference finals, and And now the team is just completely dismantled. I don't know if I've ever seen a team go downhill so quickly. In terms of the guys you can expect to definitely see on the team this year and in the future, I mean, Cody Cece's probably sticking around. Thomas Chabot should have big minutes this year, especially if Karlsson goes, because he'll be stepping up and be relied on for top pairing minutes. And I guess Bobby Ryan is still sticking around, although I think they're trying to part ways with his contract. Other than that, you've got, say, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Zach Smith, Ryan Zingle, guys like that who probably should be second to third liners are going to be relied on for much more important roles than they should be. So I mean, it's no surprise here. My prediction is going to be that Ottawa finishes at the very bottom of the division. Hopefully this rebuild happens quickly, though. Hey guys, just wanted to add a quick update here. Since the recording of this episode, but before the release, two things that I expected to happen did. First of all, Henrik Zetterberg did in fact retire, so in that regard, no changes to my Red Wings preview. I wasn't really expecting him in the lineup this season. But props to him, he had a great career, and it's unfortunate it had to end the way it did. Secondly, and probably much more notably, Erik Karlsson was in fact traded to the San Jose Sharks. This one again doesn't change my Senators preview. It's definitely going to change my Sharks preview a little bit, but we'll see more of that in a later episode. This is what I was expecting, but the return was not what I expected for Ottawa. If anything, it further reinforces my expectation of them having a very, very poor season. Maybe even worse than I expected, and while I'm at it, I might as well get into why I think this trade was so awful, because I see a lot of people online defending it and saying that Ottawa did well. I don't see it. I think this is going to go down as one of those terrible, terrible trades in recent history, much like the Taylor Hall and the PK Subban trade. It's just bad. So if you haven't seen it, San Jose sends defenseman Erik Karlsson and left winger Francis Perron. Francis Perron, 7th round pick, hasn't played in the NHL. Hasn't really. I mean, he might be an NHLer one day, but like, don't bank on it. I think this is just more of just them sending a body in return. And Ottawa gets in return. Let's go through the picks here first. They definitely got a 2nd round pick in 2019. And there are 2 conditional picks, a 1st rounder in 2020 and a 2021 2nd round pick. So neither one of them are guaranteed. The conditions are very specific based on where Karlsson re-signs, how well the Sharks do, etc., etc. So it's hard to say exactly how that's going to work out for Ottawa. They might get 3 picks out of it. They might just get the 1. They also get defenseman Dylan DeMelo. He should hop into the lineup as a depth piece. Then again, Ottawa's defense is pretty rough looking. Maybe he'll play higher up. But he's a 25-year-old 6th rounder. He has 32 points in 133 games. He's not a very offensive player. He's not going to rack up a lot of points. He'll fill a spot. He'll do a decent job. Like, he's not a bad defenseman by any means, but he's no obviously he's no Karlsson, but he's no star. And at 25 years old, you're seeing roughly what you're going to get with this guy. Center Chris Tierney goes the other way. He's 24 years old. He was a 2nd round pick, 55th overall, and he had his best year of his career last season with 40 points. So this could be a 40-point guy. unless this was just an oddity and he goes back to his 25-ish seasons. And then you've got two prospects. Rudolph Balcers, 21-year-old, 5th-round pick. He had 48 points in the AHL last year. I mean, he could be all right. He had a decent season in the AHL, so he's played pro a little bit. Whether that transfers over to the NHL, who knows? Not exactly a blue-chip prospect. And the centerpiece of this trade, well, obviously the centerpiece is Karlsson, but for the other side here is Josh Norris, 19-year-old, 19th overall. Now, I'm not saying that none of these players could work out. Josh Norris could be an absolute Hall of Famer defenseman. Who knows? That 2nd-round pick, the conditional picks could work out. This trade could end up looking bad for San Jose if these prospects and these picks work out in the way that Ottawa's obviously hoping. But there's no, it's just so, I don't know, it's just so risky. See, San Jose, he's definitely getting, in my opinion, the best defenseman in the NHL. They know that. He's proven that. Ottawa doesn't really know what they're getting. And considering 1st-round picks in the last couple of years have been traded for guys like Ryan Reeves, this doesn't balance out. Yeah, you got the 19th overall pick in Josh Norris, but his value on the market is not what you're paying for it. The value's not fair here at all. Ottawa got absolutely robbed of value in this trade. Hell, this trade could have been for Cody Ceci, and it would have been closer to fair value. It's insane. Okay, no, that's not true. You wouldn't give up all these picks if you're getting Cody Ceci, but Cody Ceci and Francis Perron for those 4 players is actually a pretty even trade. Erik Karlsson, it's absolute highway robbery, and anyone who says otherwise and thinks that Ottawa got fair value here is lying to themselves. Anyway, wanted to give my quick take on the Karlsson trade because it was just so huge. I'm not sure if any of my other little predictions are going to come right, but I don't think I'll add any more updates onto this episode. And with that, I'll get back to the regular episode. Okay, next up we have the Tampa Bay Lightning. One of the more positive-looking teams in the division. No real changes in the lineup, though, surprisingly. Because usually when you have a team of this caliber who makes this kind of run, not just in the regular season but in the playoffs, you see contracts expiring and guys having to get paid big money, and then the whole thing falls apart, as we saw with the Chicago Blackhawks in recent years. Only real change here is Chris Kunitz is out, which, in my opinion, isn't a big loss. It didn't really click there. I mean, in the playoffs, they had that one lineup with him and Callahan that was kind of working for a series, but Kunitz is not one of the big pieces of this team. Chances are rookie Anthony Cirelli is going to be taking his spot. And other than that, you've got status quo. You've got Hedman and McDonough and all these stacked defense lineup. You obviously have Kucherov, Stamkos, Palat, Johnson, Killorn. Can't even name them all. The forwards. These guys have so much firepower up front, and of course one of the best goalies in the league in Andrei Vasilevsky. they're an elite team. They're one of the few elite teams in this division. It's a pretty thin division overall, but it's very competitive right at the top. They're deep at every position. They have countless wingers, centers, defensemen. Even goaltending is pretty good here. Behind Vasilevsky. I don't know what else to say other than I expect them to be fantastic. Stamkos, Kucherov, again, these guys are unreal. You've got Norris level. You got a Norris level defenseman. You've got a guy who's on the verge of winning an Art Ross if he could ever outpace McDavid. Stamkos, while once being one of the top goal scorers in the league, has found his groove as that center playmaker type instead, setting up Kucherov. And then you've got a Vezina level goalie here. The only big thing now is just days ago here, Steve Yzerman stepped down as GM, and Steve Yzerman really did build this team. I'm not sure how well his replacement is going to be, but that should be okay for the season because nothing really needs to change here because it's just a matter of breaking through, and I feel like Tampa Bay have one of the best shots at a cup in the league. They're just such a well-built machine. John Cooper, great coach, is coaching the hell out of this team. Again, it's not one of those. There's not much to analyze here. It's just a fantastic team who managed to keep it all together for another year, and should be again as good as it was last year, maybe even better. I guess there's a lot of rookie potential, but the problem is, will they actually crack the lineup? You've got returning in his sophomore year, Mikhail Sergachev. There's a lot of young rookies in the prospect pool, and it's just a question of if they can actually find their way into the lineup. Defenseman Cal Foote, actually the son of Adam Foote, is one that I think has a bright future, but again, I don't know if he's quite ready for the NHL. Taylor Radish, Matthew Joseph, Mitchell Stevens, even goaltender Connor Ingram. The team is going to be good for years to come. That's the thing. Whether any of these rookies break out this year or depends on how training camp goes. But either way, it's going to be a great team, and it's an easy prediction here. As you may have noticed, if you're keeping track, the last two spots left are first and second in the division. So which way am I going to go? Yeah, Tampa's first. And I'll get to Toronto in just a second. But yeah, I think Tampa should easily, whether it works out in the playoffs or not, I think they should easily come out first in this division. Okay, last team in the division, Toronto Maple Leafs. And again, if you're keeping track, you already know I'm predicting them to be second in the division. I'm gonna say it right out here. I think that people are overhyping the Leafs a little bit. Yes, the Tavares move is amazing. It was mind blowing that they pulled it off. But does it instantly mean they're definitely gonna win the cup? I don't think so. I think it's possible they could win the cup. I don't see it this year, but I feel like people just need to take their expectations and just take a step back. The Leafs look great, so the only thing, the one thing that people aren't talking about is the Leafs lost a lot of players this year. You lost James Van Riemsdyk, Tyler Bozak, Leo Komarov, Roman Polak, and Matt Martin. There's a lot of depth you lost, which is going to be replaced with mostly rookies. And And they're great-looking rookies. Wonderful prospect. The Toronto prospect pool is unbelievable. But what if they don't work out? What if they're not quite NHL ready? What if they're not far enough along in their development? Obviously, additions. You got John Tavares front and center. You also have Kasperi Kapanen is going to be playing his first full year by the looks of it. Travis Dermott on defense is probably going to step in and replace Polak. And Andreas Johnson is probably going to get some time on that third line with Nazem Kadri. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how the line combinations work out. The expectation right now is Matthews and Nylander up front alongside Patrick Marleau. Now that, of course, is given that they could work out that Nylander contract, which they're still in talks with. I would imagine they will. And then the second line, of course, John Tavares, Mitchell Marner, and Zach Hyman, who's actually going to be separated from Matthews, which is not what was expected. But I think there could be some complementary play styles there between the three of them. Marner and Tavares both work as setup guys and shooters, so I feel like if they can get that chemistry working, then that's going to be a fantastic line. Andreas Johnson is the one that really interests me. He could even be a Calder nominee. Had a great little run with the Leafs last year, and then an even better one down with the Marlies. Again, time down on that third line with Kadri. The problem, and I know it's become the thing that everyone's saying, the defense just is not what I would want from a team that I'm going to bet to win the cup. Yes, Gardner, Riley, Zaitsev, all fantastic, but and Travis Dermott looks great. But you're relying on Ron Hainsey for big minutes, and Hainsey just doesn't do it for me. I just don't know. There are other rookies that could end up making the lineup here, but it remains to be seen. It looks like the lineup, for the most part, is pretty solidified. Frederik Andersen, again, in goal, solid. He's been playing excellent in the last couple of years. You got Curtis McElhinney and Garrett Sparks are probably going to be fighting for that backup position. McElhinney seems like the better fit, but I mean, if they have to move a guy, I would imagine they're going to stick with Sparks with the upside that he has. So again, like I said, second in the division. I think people need to calm down a little on the Leafs. Not to say that they don't have the potential to win the cup this year. Highly possible, but I think a few more years are needed to really get this team at the elite level that people are expecting them to be now. And with that is the Jedi Dropouts Productions Atlantic Division preview for the NHL season 2018-2019. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to sit down and do this for the other three divisions as well. I'll break down every team in the league one by one. Really excited to finally be talking about hockey a little bit, as I am constantly reading and thinking about it, and it's just fun to get it out here. If you enjoyed this, even if you're a regular Jedi Dropouts listener and you enjoyed this, let me know. Let me know what you think of this. I really appreciate any feedback. Anything you think I should change, and anything hockey related that you would like to hear me do. I mean, I got the thoughts in my head. It's just a matter of spitting them out there in a microphone. As always, you can check out other other episodes of Jedi Dropouts, Final Form, and any other podcast from Jedi Dropouts Productions over at www.jedidropouts.podbean.com or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. I mean, we're on iTunes, we're on YouTube, Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play, the works. And thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice. Later.
This has been a Jedi Dropouts production.